Many people know about the great empires of the world, the French Republic, the Qing Dynasty, and the British Empire, but many of these don't have the same influence as the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, also known as the Soviet Union. Hello, I'm Blondie, and this is Blondie's Basic History. Many people have made videos of the Soviet Union and have taught its history, but I'm going to do it my way, a basic but educational way. Let's learn about the Soviet Union. If we want to know about the history of the Soviet Union, we have to go all the way back to 1825, when the first revolution started to begin in Russia. On December 26, Christmas Day, 1825, a military coup ensued after the sudden death of Tsar Alexander I. After the death of Alexander I, his heir Constantine declined the offer of becoming the new Tsar of Russia, this making the younger brother of Alexander, Nicholas I, the new Tsar of Russia. After this, a military coup at St. Petersburg began with 3,000 soldiers in support of Constantine becoming the new Tsar. Thus, 9,000 soldiers of the Russian Imperial Army were sent to quell the revolution. They were equipped with muskets, heavy artillery, and cavalry, and quickly they destroyed the coup. After this, many of the soldiers were either executed or exiled to Siberia, thus beginning the deterioration of the Russian Empire. Fast forward to 1905, the Russian Empire is cracking at the seams as the country is starving and the serfs are in horrible working conditions. On June 22nd of 1905, a priest named Father Gapon, with 3,000 to 50,000 people, headed to the capital, St. Petersburg, to give the new Tsar of Russia, Nicholas II, a petition for better working conditions. But they were soon met by 10,000 soldiers of the Russian Imperial Army, who then opened fire upon them. Around 234 protesters were killed, around 800 were injured, and 6,831 people were arrested by the Russian police. With that, this event, commonly known in Russia as Bloody Sunday, caused the beginning of the 1905 revolution that spanned over 2 years. The Russian Empire is slowly falling apart. But 9 years later, something horrible happened that causes more damage to the instability and stability of the empire. World War I. In the First World War, Russia's involvement was massive because of the nation's support for Serbia, which was being accused of the assassination of Austro-Hungarian heir to the throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Throughout the First World War, the Russian Empire has been falling behind in attacks of the German Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Russians have been pushed back because of the instability of the Russian military and the lack of command and officers. They have sadly been pushed back all the way to the borders of modern-day Latvia by 1917. And by that same year, the morale of the Russian Empire and her people were utterly destroyed. By January of 1917, mutinies within the Russian military have been increasingly stagnating, with the morale of the country plummeting, and instability again within the Russian Empire and its newer constitution. In February of 1917, the people of Russia revolted, causing the February Revolution against the government for again poor working conditions and lack of food, that which called the creation of the provisional government to replace the monarchy as it's failed the people. The German Empire, struggling with winning in the Eastern Front and seeing the Russian people continue to destroy themselves, find a man who has caused a lot of trouble inside Russia and send him back via train. This man is Vladimir Lenin. Vladimir Lenin was a Marxist who was arrested for speaking about the literacy of Karl Marx in 1889 and sent to Siberia for exile. Vladimir Lenin was formerly a member of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, he in 1903 causing the split in the party, creating the Bolsheviks against Julius Martov's Mensheviks. Lenin was sent to Petrograd, Russia to help the German Empire pull out of the war, and that he did a year later. After Vladimir Lenin's April thesis, he called for all power to the Soviets, as he's telling the provisional government that it's also failed the people for continuing the war in Europe. After the April thesis, the third revolution in the Russian Empire ensued, called the July Days, which was a 4-day strike that was caused by the Kerensky offensive failing. The provisional government had to get involved, eventually dispersing the protesters. But because of this event, the government's crackdown on the Bolsheviks was started, and arrested many, such as Leon Trotsky, a revolutionary politician, among many others. Vladimir Lenin was forced to flee to Finland. Not long after, in September of 1917, a military coup by Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Imperial Army, Lev Korlanov, headed to Petrograd to destroy the Soviets. In fear, Alexander Kerensky released imprisoned Soviets and revolutionaries who rallied men and stopped the coup dead in its tracks. Kornilov and his officers were then arrested. With having to use the Soviets to support the provisional government, the government's strength and support of the people crumbled at the feet of the Soviets, and thus the beginning of the October Revolution and Russian Civil War. I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and if you want to see a second part, please subscribe and like the video. I hope you learned something today, and I'll see you in the next one.